So we have, I mean, often heard that Costco firstly goes regional, and then based on the movement, it translates it to the nationwide representation. So of course, this could be advantageous for going brands to test the market first and then scale up. So I mean, what is your take on that? And if you can throw some light around it as to, is it a good strategy to start with?
It depends. When we look at a client, we want to know what where their distribution currently is. Mm-hmm. So generally, if you go into a region where you don't have a lot of distribution, your sales can be down to the negative as much as 30%. Mm-hmm. Versus when you go into a region that you have a lot of distribution in. So if, let's say, you're in the Costco Midwest region and you have, 12% ACV, and you're doing really well there, that might be the place that you want to start. And as that business builds and you continue to grow outside of Costco, then you can expand into other regions. There's always exceptions to the rules where an item comes along and it just hits it out of the park with no distribution, but that's rare. People like talking about it, but it doesn't happen very often. So it's really important that you look at focusing on smart growth instead of just growth for the sake of growth, because Costco is not the most loyal retailer. They'll cancel any item no matter how successful you are at any time. And even Chobani was pulled out of Costco for a while because they wanted to test other yogurt items. So it was a brief period of time, but that just shows you how, tough they are. And, at Costco, the member is the most important client for Costco, not the vendor. So, it's just really important that you understand those type of things and that you understand Costco doesn't want to represent more than 20 to 25% of your business, because they don't want to read in the newspaper or in a magazine that they put somebody out of business because they canceled an item. And like what's happened, over the years with Walmart. And so they want you to manage your business smartly. They don't want to be a big percentage of it. But at the same time, when you have the right items that fit Costco really well, and you have this, either your own plant that or a co-packer that has the ability to scale, then it can be a good fit if the item is the right type of item for high growth at club. But a lot of brands sometimes want to go to Costco just to go to Costco to get sales numbers. And they don't do that well. And so you've got to constantly, evaluate whether or not you have an item or a series of items that have the longevity and can move at the speed of Costco.
So if you can give a quick tips for the brands who wish to get into Costco.
Yeah, I would say that you generally, any brand that wants to go to Costco, you have to seriously look at your supply chain first before you even talk to a broker. Do you have the ability to supply truckload orders? Can you get to the right pricing? Can you deliver on time and consistently? Those are things you need to think about. And then you need to think about your budget. So if you, let's just make up a number and say, if you were going to spend $1 million to launch at Costco in 3 or 4 regions, when you add up all the demos and everything else that it takes to get into Costco, would that be better spent over the next 12 months getting more retailers on board and building that business up versus going to Costco and seeing if you get, odds are you're going to get a rotation maybe, and then you're done. So you do one rotation, maybe they come back later in the year, maybe they come back the following year. So you've got to take all of those things into account before you make the decision that you want to hire a broker and go to Costco. But you generally want to be, because of the percentage of business rule of Costco not wanting to be more than 20 to 25% of your business, you really have to be at least tracking about $1 million to $2 million in sales. There's always exceptions to the rule, as I always say, but you want to be there. So by the time, if you have a successful rotation, that you're starting to push past 2 million. The real sweet spot is around 5 to 10 million is really the early stage. But I've had brands, because one of the unique things about Costco is that they'll let you go into 1 or 2 buildings. So you don't have to go into all the buildings. And then last thing I'll add is it's really important that you find the right broker for your business. If you're going to use a broker, that you find, everyone's going to tell you they got great relationships with the buyers. No one's going to be honest with you from a broker perspective and say, we've got a great relationship with Jerry and we have a terrible relationship with Sandy. So you just have to presume they have good relationships. But the key question to ask them is, how do they build brands at Costco? What is the average time it takes them to get an item in, which it's probably going to be around 12 to 15 months, because that's generally about how long it takes to get in. Sometimes it's faster, but generally that's about the average timeline. And then you want to know, what SKUs do they already have in Costco? How long have they been there? Because a lot of times people get items in there and they don't last very long. And sometimes it's the broker's fault, but a lot of times it's not the broker's fault. It's the item just didn't sell that well. So those are the questions you really want to ask. And you want a broker that cares about your profitability, because most brokers don't, because they're just working on commission. And, when they look at the business, all they care about is, getting the sale and generating commission for their company. And so, it's important you get someone that understands Costco, but also understands and is willing to go fight for you. Because my job's not to be the best friend with the buyer. My job is to take care of my client and protect my client and their values, even if it means having to tell the buyer that they're wrong or that we're not interested in selling at that price. So